Hello, David, or anyone else who might be watching. This is a crash course in Photoshop on how to draw in Photoshop. So first thing you want to do is when you open Photoshop is to determine your canvas size. When you make a document, you can go create new on the left side here, or go file and new. Sometimes you do get a pop-up when you first open Photoshop. So Photoshop gives you a bunch of presets, but in my best opinion, it's best to make your own height and width or whatever. So if you know you're making something for print, like you want like an A4 document to print, or like an A3 poster, like choose millimeters and then like write the size and just like Google like what A4 paper size is and stuff like that. I typically work in pixels because I typically work in stuff for print. This is like a typical widescreen like ratio size. There's a lot of stuff you can determine with sizes, and you can get pretty good like an idea for sizes by looking at the preset Photoshop sizes. The only issue with this is sometimes it sets up like some weird rulers along your documents and weird guidelines and artboards, so that's why I typically don't use this. So for example, if you're working on like a profile picture for someone or something, you can just make a square one, so you just go 1000 by 1000 pixels. Something that you do want to do is make sure it's pixels per inch here for resolution. This changed because I was messing around with clicking those presets, and make it 300. Now you might be like, oh, 72 standard for web and stuff. This is how many pixels occur per inch on your document, but you want to set to 300. You do get a smoother result, and at the end of the day you can end up printing it and it's going to look pretty good. It just means that there's more pixels per inch, so like when you zoom all the way in. So 300 is good for drawing and stuff. If you're doing something that's just for print, make it CMYK mode. If it's for like both, just do RGB and just let the colors be a little bit shittier when you print them, like no one really cares. So there you go. So I've just set up a square canvas for you there, and it's set up for print. A way to check this, you go image, and then you go image size, or Control-I, or Command Option I, I'm pretty sure, if you're on a Mac. And then you get your pop-up, and you can change your size by this as well before you start working. You don't want to change your size once you've started working. It's going to ruin the way your artwork looks. Next thing you're going to want to do is when you're drawing in Photoshop and stuff, is you're going to want to hit your brush tool here on the side menu here. If you don't have that here, it might be like collapsed underneath something. So see here, if I hold down left click, I can see all the other tools here. So you want the brush tool, or it might be at the bottom here under these three dots where you have to like hit edit toolbar, and then you just have to drag it in, which is the brush tool. But brush tool should be on by default unless you're working on someone else's computer. Next thing you're going to want to do is hit the drop down menu at the top next to the brush tool, and you're going to want to hit this gear here, and you're going to want to go to get more brushes, PogChamp. So something in Photoshop is that you do have some default brushes, but in my opinion you don't have the stuff that you want. So you want to go and click get more brushes, and this will show you like how to download them and get them and stuff. So you can just like continue to the US side or the Australian side or whatever. They powered a guy called Kyle T. Webster for all of his brushes, and they're really really good. So depending on what artwork you want this. Brushes aren't everything, but they can make some work go a lot quicker. And once you start using Photoshop more, you determine what brushes are good for your type of work and stuff. So for example, I've made my own folder in here, but this for like when I design emotes, but this folder is made up with brushes from like a manga one or like an ink one and stuff. So I think I've got like the mega pack, like what is it, Inkbox, and it's like too smooth brush or something like this. It's like, I don't know, it's somewhere under here. I might have even dragged it out into my own brush. But determine the brushes you like and stuff, because with your brushes you can get certain effects and certain styles that is typically quite hard to get if you're just drawing normally. So like if I was like, oh shoot, I want to like have like a splatter effect when I draw and stuff, like you can have a brush do that for you. Or if you're drawing like plants, for example, you can have like a brush that draws basically the textures for the plants, so you don't even have to worry about it. Like you go into like your concept brushes, you're just like, oh, I need some like green foliage on my stuff, and you're just like, there you go, there's a leaf shape already done for you. Just like change the color variation throughout, and there you go, you've got some variation in leaves. You don't have to worry about drawing every shape and stuff, so brushes can save you time. So I've got my brushes set up here. These are all Kyle Webster brushes, apart from the few Photoshop default, which is soft round. I've got a flat eraser, and then too smooth, to be forgotten, from the Inkbox pack in the Mega Pack, which is a really nice brush. Especially if you're using a tablet. I don't have mine plugged in at the moment. Like this gives you really nice tapering results for pressure sensitivity and stuff. And yeah. Okay, so we've discussed brushes. Next step is to change your palettes. So typically when you open Photoshop, you're going to be in like a weird default view, which it's okay, it's not great. First thing you want to do is get this learn thing, get it out of your face. So just like drag it out, close it, and then you're going to want to have your colors up and then your layers up. That's all you really need for drawing. You can have your swatches too every now and then and stuff, but not really needed. Next thing you're going to want to do is hit this here, the hamburger menu, and hit color wheel. Color wheel is a lot easier to select colors and determine what works in terms of color theory. If you're working on something that's like a bit more like generic and stuff, like it's a bit harder to determine where you want to go and how you want stuff to look. I always find that ever since I released the color wheel, it's easier to like move amongst colors and get like similar tones and variations of other colors compared to other stuff too. So yeah. Alright, next things next, let's learn about the layers tool. So unlike when you work in real life with art, you have a thing called layers. So when you work in real life with art, you work on one layer, which is the canvas, and everything is all grouped up together, which kind of like ruins you for like being able to go back. You always have to work back into art and work over the top and like just erase like in total chunks. So like for example, when I go to erase here, hello? Oh, it's because this is locked. When I go to erase here, it erases everything, even the background of the canvas. So you don't want to work on one layer, you want to work on multiple layers. The typical way to work about is to create multiple layers. You hit the plus down the bottom here, then you hit this top, you can double click on the layer and then name it. Naming conventions really help organize your layers, so I highly recommend that. So you can like rename this one like line art, you can rename this one like color, which is what I typically do, and then I normally have one in between which is like shading or lighting. Something you can do here to make sure you don't accidentally work on these layers is to like hit these locks here, which stop you from working on them. So this background one, which wasn't locked before, I can draw on or erase on because it's got the transparency grid locked in. If I hit the brush tool on this, typically you can't draw on it, but for some reason I can. Hello? Okay, ignore me on that one. But for example, if that one's locked, I can't draw on that. So you don't want to draw on the background tool and you don't want to draw on the color tool. Something as well that I typically do when I work is I create another layer here and then I make it a dark variant like this, so I can see what my artwork looks like on dark and white because it typically has a transparent background, and I just lock this. So then typically I get like a black brush, I get like a nice smooth brush for my type of styled work. Go like too smooth to be forgotten, and then like I draw my line art, for example. I got no tablet plugged in. And then I'll fill my color in, which I typically do with the bucket tool here. It just saves a lot of time. Just like have that selected, tick at the top here, all layers, so it paints for everything. And then contagious as well. And then it will like clip to whatever layers you've drawn. So now the great thing of this is because I'm drawing in layers and not on one layer, if I want to erase one part of this, I can. And like it doesn't erase the other parts of the other layers. So if I want to erase line art, I just select the layer and boom, remove line art layer. Alright, that's sweet. Okay, and then like if I want to work on shading and stuff for it, then I can like be like, oh, I want to have a soft color on top of this. I'll just change my brush to like a soft round, like shading, make it bigger, which you can do with the bracket tools, which I normally do. You can also drag it here for size, and then like move along like that. And then you can go in and erase, or if you want a more advanced technique or a quicker way of doing this, right click on shading, hit create clipping mask, and then this will automatically snap to whatever layers under it, which is like really big time saver. So like I can't draw anywhere else here, and say for example if I release the clipping mask, you can see where it would be, for example. Okay, we've talked about brushes and erasers and layers. I'm going to touch one more second on erasers. So different erasers have different styles and types to them. So for example, the soft round one here is more of a soft eraser. If I hit like the hard round brush, it gives you a hard edge. So depending on what style you're doing, depends on what eraser you want to use. So for example, if you're drawing in manga style, like you can select like erasers based on that. Do note the icons next to your brushes and your brush backs. Certain brushes can't be erasers, certain erasers can't be brushes, vice versa. Some of them have different effects. So depending on what tool you see is what they typically do. So just try to stick to ones of brushes or erasers, not really mess with smudging ones and stuff which have like fingers, or ones that don't have anything at all, like the default general Photoshop brushes. You can use it as erasers or pencils, and they work great. Don't get me wrong. Alright, next thing you want to look at here is the smoothing tool. So the smoothing tool allows you to draw smooth lines and stuff. This is really good for if you're using a tablet. If you're using like other stuff, it's like not as like freehand with your mouse. It might not work as well. I don't really use freehand with mouse, so I can't tell you, but at the moment I am. So like for example, if I turn smoothing on 0 here, I'm just going to do like a basic black line here. See how it can kind of wobble a bit, and especially if you zoom in, you can see how it's like not a perfectly straight line. If you turn it up, do note this does have issues with your CPU and your RAM and stuff. The line's going to appear a lot smoother depending on like how smooth you drag it, and there will be sometimes a bit of a delay when you do this too. For example, if I want to draw a circle with smoothing, like that's a pretty good looking circle. If I have smoothing all the way off and I want to draw a circle, see how there's like little bumps and hicks along here? Yeah, you might not notice, it takes a little bit of a trained eye. So yeah, that's layers. This is your brushes here. This is your erasers here. Remember, if you click and hold down, you have multiple options for this. If you want to do pixel art or whatever. Smoothing tool makes your lines smoother. Something that you might want to do is hit edit and then preferences, or if you're on Mac, I'm pretty sure you hit the Photoshop button and then preferences. And then you hit your settings here. Just hit performance. Give Photoshop more RAM. Use your graphics processor if you've got a good one. And you can give more history states here as well. So basically history states is like how many times you can press undo, which is undo's up here, or Control Z for your keyboard shortcut. Yeah, that's pretty much a crash course on drawing in Photoshop, like setting up layers, using brushes and using erasers. There's a lot more you can get into. Photoshop is very, very advanced. You can do a lot of different things like motion design, web design. It's even got its own 3D rendering type of stuff going on. Yeah, I'll teach you one other cool thing as well. So say if you've drawn stuff and you want to like add shading, but you don't want to use color for it, you can use black and white. And what you do for this is you hit your brush you want to do, you draw it in black and white. So if you ever want to get back to black and white as well right away, so say if you've like using different colors, so you can switch between colors here. And you can also do that with X on your keyboard. You can hit default and that goes automatically black and white, and if I want to switch from black to white, then I just hit X, so that switches foreground and background color. So what I can do here is I can draw with white. In order to give it a better effect, so it's not just a harsh white, you hit here where it says normal, you change your blending modes. This is going to appear like how the white's going to appear on top. So you can like dodge, soft light is typically what I use, you've got hard lights, all different stuff. And then once you go into there, you can change the transparency. So say if you want, oh, like I like this type of shading, color effect for shading, what you can do is just reduce the opacity down for it, and then it blends better. Yeah, and you can do the same for if you're adding like dark shading. So typically what I'd do for that is I'd make another shading layer, create clipping mask, so that still clips to the purple, doesn't clip to the white one here. I want to add like dark shading here, just draw a line, and then just hit like multiply, which is multiplying the colors on top, and then just reduce that down. You got like nice gradients effects. Yeah. So I hope you enjoyed this Photoshop crash course. I hope this helped you out, David, who I made this for. If anyone else has got any tutorials I want me to make, let me know down in the comments below. Sorry for the scuffness, it was a one take off the top of my head Photoshop knowledge. If you guys want to check out any of the music that was played during this video, which is DMCA Ferry for YouTube videos and Twitch streams, check out Night Mode Records. Alright, thanks for watching, and goodbye.